Hello friends, welcome to the module Creative Thinking. Let me invite your kind attention to a wonderful behavior of a bird, the nesting behavior of Ploceus, the bird which make amazing nest. So coming to the case of human practice, as you know, architect design very beautiful houses. What is the difference between these two? Have you ever thought of it? If you look at the Baya weaver nest, the type of nest is similar for even thousands. But about the newly designed house, you can see each house is differing either of any characters in a different way. This is because of a trait that differentiates between human from other animals, that is creativity. The aim of education is to enable the individual to prepare for the future life. Preparing for the world is not an easy task. As the world changes, new technologies and practices are introduced. What we learn in schools usually becomes obsolete by the time we are ready to start working. This is why preparation for children and young adults nowadays should focus on developing skills that are crucial for adapting to this ever-changing reality. Here also comes the need to develop creative thinking. What is creative thinking and why it is important? Most people associate creativity with artistic tasks such as writing a novel, painting a picture, or composing music. While all these are creative endeavors, not all creative thinkers are artists. Many jobs require creative thinking, including positions in the worlds of business and science. Creativity simply means the ability to come up with something new. Creative thinking means looking at something in a new way. It is the very definition of thinking outside the box. Often, creativity in this sense involves what is called lateral thinking, or the ability to perceive patterns that are not obvious. Creative people have the ability to devise new ways to carry out tasks, solve problems, and meet challenges. They bring a fresh and sometimes unorthodox perspective to their work. This way of thinking can help departments and organizations move in more productive directions. For these reasons, they are extremely valuable. Some people are naturally more creative than others, but creative thinking can be strengthened with practice. You can develop creative thinking by solving riddles, being aware of and letting go of your assumptions, and through play. Play connotes anything unstructured and relaxing, such as daydreaming. Watching someone work in creative ways can help you to learn to be more creative yourself. Now let us examine creativity as a concept and the thinking skills involved in it. As a prelude, let us see some of the definitions of creativity. Spearman in 1931 defined creativity as the power of human mind to create new contents by transforming relations and thereby generating new correlates. David B. Ausubel in 1963 defined creativity as generalized constellation of intellectual abilities, personality variables, and problem solving traits. Wilson, Guilford and Christensen define creativity as the process is any process by which something new is produced, an idea or an object, including a new form of arrangement of all elements. The new creation of must contribute to the solution of some problems. Now let us examine some of the principles that govern creativity. Creative thinking inspires ideas, and these ideas inspire change. Creativity and creative thinking are very important aspects in all human endeavors. Let us learn about the principles of creativity. As we saw, every person is creative, that is, capable of creativity. This creativity of every individual is composed of three main components. So, we will take a look at these three aspects in some detailed form. The first one, expertise. Expertise basically encompasses the knowledge of a person. This means intellectual knowledge, procedural knowledge, technical knowledge are all combined together. Usually, it talks about all the knowledge a person has in a specific field, that is, in his domain. And expertise and creativity are closely related. While it is not important to have a creative side to attain expertise in one's field, the opposite tends to be true. Creativity generally does demand some level of expertise. Creativity thinking skill. Another principle of creativity is creative thinking. It is associated with how one approaches a problem or a difficult situation. It involves finding a unique and creative solution to any unanswered question or problem. It is basically thinking outside the box. That is, having a new perspective about something routine. Now, new ideas, intelligent solutions, unique collaborations and combinations all are a part of creative thinking. It exhibits the flexibility and imagination power of a person. Creative thinking is stimulated by both structured process such as lateral thinking and unstructured process such as brainstorming. Coming to the third principle, motivation. Motivation is the driving force behind an individual. It is the desire that pushes a person to initiate any action or behavior or sustain such behaviors as well. Motivation is a very big part of any person's work environment. It really defines the success of any endeavor. Even in creativity, motivation plays a huge role. Creativity is not an easy process. It requires efforts and hard work. If the person lacks motivation, he may give up easily without sufficient efforts. And the lack of results can be blamed on lack of creativity. But if a person is truly motivated and works towards his problems, a creative solution can always be attained. At this juncture, it will be interesting to explore into the characteristics of creative thinking. Characteristics of creative thinkers include: they are communicators. Creativity and confidence are expressed in many ways through both listening and communicating. This is why creative thinkers are good communicators. Collaboration is also important for this kind of thinking, and good communication is essential for work performance as a part of a team. They are open-minded. An open mind is a mind that appreciates criticism. is ready for new solutions and ideas, and is not afraid of evaluating ideas. A person who is open-minded is willing to learn from both success and failure, being able to grow and develop. They are risk takers. Exploring new ideas and strategies is impossible without risk taking, as a willingness to face challenges and accept change. Creative thinkers are resilient, and they are not afraid of taking a chance, knowing that one needs to be brave when exploring innovative and original ways of thinking about and solving problems. They know that leaving a comfort zone is sometimes necessary to succeed, even if it means facing the unknown. It is very interesting to note the indices of a creative child. Here are some qualities of a creative child. A creative child always baffled by something. A creative child is attracted to the mysterious. A creative child can attempt difficult mental jobs. A creative child is a fault finder. His criticism is constructive. A creative child likes solitude. A creative child is receptive to the ideas of others. A creative child has determination. A creative child is receptive to the ideas of others. A creative child makes mistakes but never bored. A creative child is visionary and speculative. A creative child lacks business ability. A creative child has strong emotions, affections, etc. Having discussed the characteristics of a creative child, let us proceed to the stages of creative thinking. Creative thinking involves 4 stages. The first stage is preparation. In this stage, the thinker formulates the problem and collects the facts and materials considered necessary for finding new solutions. Many times, the problems cannot be solved even after days, weeks, or months of concentrated efforts. Failing to solve the problem, the thinker turns away from it, initiating the next stage. The second stage is incubation. As the term indicates, during this period, some of the ideas that were interfering with the solution will tend to fade. The overt activity and sometimes even thinking about the problem is absent in this stage. But the unconscious thought process involved in creative thinking is at work during this period. Apparently, the thinker will be busy in other activities like reading literature or playing games, etc. In spite of these activities, the contemplation about finding a solution to problem will be going on in his mind. The third stage is illumination. Following the period of incubation, the creative idea occurs suddenly. Consequently, the obscure things become clear. This sudden flash of solution is known as illumination and similar to aha experience or eureka, eureka, eureka. And for example, Archimedes found solution to the crown problem. Then coming to the last stage, verification. Though the solution is found in illumination stage, it is necessary to verify whether that solution is correct or not. Hence, in this stage, evaluation of the solution is done. If the solution is not satisfactory, the thinker will go back to the creative process from the beginning. If it is satisfactory, the same will be accepted, and if it necessary, minor modification may also be made in solution. After discussing the conceptual aspects, Now, it will be interesting to explore the possibilities of creativity in the teaching learning process. The concept of teaching creativity has been around for quite some time. Academics such as E. Paul Terence dedicated entire lifetime to the advancement of creativity in education. Terence faced much opposition in his day about the nature of creativity. Creativity was considered to be an immeasurable natural ability. Terence called for explicit teaching of creativity. He advocated that it was skill specific, requiring intentional instruction. His life's work ultimately led to the development of Terence test and gifted programs throughout the world. In general, our current school system suppresses creativity. He proposes that our current model leaves little room for divergent thinking. Much of the blame for a lack of creativity and therefore innovation can be traced to our traditional educational system. It relies on teaching to the correct answer. An innovative thinking model is needed. In the same way, David Haggis, founder of Decision Labs and professor at UNC Chapel Hill, argues that innovation is an essential skill for our global economy even. Most of the practice of creative methods is being done outside the traditional educational institution by consulting firms and by persons in companies who have been trained in creative problem solving methods. In universities, not much has changed since 1950s. When the distinguished psychologist J.P. Guilford, in his inaugural address as president of the American Psychological Association, stated that education's neglect of the subject of creativity was appalling. Adding to this sequence of events is the fact that the textbooks are at least 3 years out of date when they are published, and educational systems were the slowest adopters of innovation. Thus, we say that educational institutions need a strong dose of creative problem solving. Here are some ways then, as educators, that we promote creativity in our classrooms. Some of the activities are: embrace creativity as a part of learning. Create a classroom that recognizes creativity. You may want to design awards or bulletin boards to showcase different ways of solving a problem or creative solutions to a real world scenario. Use the most effective strategies. Terence performed an extensive meta-analysis that considered the most effective ways to teach creativity. He found that the most successful approaches used creative arts, media-oriented programs, or relied on the Osborne Pans training program. Programs that incorporated cognitive and emotional functioning were the most successful. Third, think of creativity as a skill. Much like resourcefulness and inventiveness is less a trait and more a proficiency that can be taught. If we see it in this way, our job as educators become to find ways to encourage its use and break it down into smaller skill sets. Psychologists tend to think of a creativity as big C and little c. Big C drive big societal ideas like the civil rights movement or a new literary style. Little c is more of a working model of creativity that solves everyday problems. Both concepts can be included in our classrooms to promote creativity in general. Participate in or create a program to develop creative skills. Programs like design and implement programs for students that bring them together, students from around the world to promote creativity, design creative solutions and bring them to competition. The fifth strategy is use emotional connections. Research suggests that the best creativity instruction lies in the emotions of the learner. Students can devise a solution to help their local community, such as helping homeless youth. Consider how classroom assignments use divergent and convergent thinking. Standardized tests do a great job of measuring convergent thinking that includes analytical thinking or logical answers with one correct response. Divergent thinking considers how a learner can use different ways to approach a problem. It requires using association and multiplicity of thought. We should design assignments that consider both types of thinking models. Be aware during discussions. You know that students who often ask the question that goes a bit outside the lecture, well, engage him. Once a week, intentionally address those questions, write them down on an assigned space in the board to go back to later. Promote creativity by validating students' creative thinking. See creativity in a positive light. In his blog in Psychology Today, Eric Jaffe talks about research that suggests see creativity in a negative light. If we are going to promote creativity, we need to embrace it too. Reward students for thinking of problems in varied ways by recognizing their efforts. Establish expressive freedom. Since freedom is the watchword of creativity, the classroom environment must be a place where students feel safe to share novel ideas. Allow for flexibility and create norms that promote creativity. Gather outside resources. There are some great resources to read related to creativity. The University of Georgia provides an array of amazing resources related to how to promote creativity in practical ways. It also gives a list of programs and organizations that can help with the process. Allow room for mistake. Sir Ken Robinson said, "It is best when he said, if you are not prepared to be wrong, you will never come up with anything original." Allow space for creativity. Design some classroom space for exploration, such as thinking table, a drama stage, a drawing table, or a space for group to discuss ideas. Give students time to ask questions. Organizations such as CCE, Creativity Culture Education, suggest that teachers must incorporate opportunities for students to ask questions. Intentionally design lessons that allow for wondering and exploration. Encourage curiosity. Consider what is important to students. Students' interest is a great place to start on what drives their own thinking tank. Find inspiration from their world. Creativity is intrinsic in nature. Try to promote creativity by stepping into their viewpoint to find what is motivate them. Student interests are a great place to start on what drives their own thinking tank. Find inspiration from their world. Observe a working model of creativity. To get a better idea of how others promote creativity, visit a creative classroom or watch a video about how a creative classroom works. The Case for Creativity in School is an excellent video that educators can watch to see how creativity might play out in a classroom. This school adopted a school-wide approach to recognize students. Explore different cultures. Culture is an excellent vehicle for inspiring creative thinking. In Thinking Hats and Colored Turbans, Dr. Kripal Singh discussed how cultural contexts are central to creative endeavors. You can discuss how collaboration between cultures, such as in the space program, produces unique novel ideas. Find ways to incorporate and integrate art, music and culture. A recent report prepared for the European Commission considered that creativity is a central force that shapes our culture. With the changing time we live in, the report suggested that society is enriched by cultural based creativity. Use a collaborative creative thinking model to solve classroom problems. For instance, read a paragraph and then have groups to discuss a list of questions. Collaborative problem solving is catching on quickly. In fact, many business schools have implemented creative thinking models into their curriculum. Tapping into multiple intelligence as a key. Creativity requires us to use different parts of our brain. We often bridge connections between seemingly unrelated areas to make new concepts emerge. Allow students to use their strength to find new ways of approaching a topic or solving a problem. You might be surprised with what they come up with. Teach creative skills explicitly. According to Collard, creative skills are not just about good ideas, they are about having the skills to make good ideas happen. He suggests creative skills should include 5 major areas: imagination, being disciplined or self-motivated, resiliency, collaboration, giving responsibility to the students, having them develop their own projects. Now coming to brainstorming as a technique for fostering creativity. There are many techniques for fostering creativity. Researchers in the field of creativity have suggested special techniques and methods for fostering creativity among children. Brainstorming is one among the best techniques used. Brainstorming is a strategy or a technique for allowing a group to explore ideas without judgment or censors. In practice, the children may be asked to sit in a group for solving a problem or attacking it without any inhibition from many angles. In fact, literally storming it with a number of possible ideas and solutions. To start with, the students may be provided with a focus. Example, a particular problem like student unrest or the growing unemployment or how to check truancy in our school, etc. The students are then asked to suggest ideas as rapidly as possible and the following norms are observed. All ideas are encouraged and appreciated. Therefore, no criticism is allowed during brainstorming session. Secondly, students are encouraged to come out with as many ideas as possible, even unusual or unorthodox ones. They are not restricted to new ideas only, but are also encouraged to enlarge upon ideas put forward by fellow students. No evaluation or comment of any sort is to be made until the session is over. At the end of the session, all the ideas received, preferably written on the chalkboard, should be discussed in a free, frank and open environment, and the most viable ideas accepted for solution of the problem in hand. Now, let me summarize the session. Creativity as the unique characteristics of the human mind may be defined as the capacity of an individual to create or produce an entirely new or novel idea or object, or by the rearrangement or reshaping of what is already known. It is both innate as well as acquired, and a process as well as a product. It is also characterized by qualities like universally adventurousness, open-mindedness, a craving for change and novelty, ego involvement, and divergent thinking. It does not necessarily have a positive correlation with academic achievement and intelligence. It does, however, show positive correlation with anxiety and negative correlation with sociability. Creativity is also investigated through its outcome, that is, the creative product. The degree of one's creativity may thus be judged on the basis of its originality, novelty, and relevance. Creativity may also be described and understood through the personality characteristics of the creatives as distinct from those of the non-creative. Who is creative and what should be expected from a creative mind can therefore be properly determined by referring to the list of the characteristics framed by researchers and psychologists. There is a need for properly planned, deliberate, and conscious effort on the part of teachers, parents, and members of the society, government, as well as the children themselves, for the appropriate nurturing and stimulation of the creative urge and potential. It should therefore be ensured that children are provided with the environment and facilities conducive to the nurturing and stimulation of all that which is helpful in the development of creative faculties and qualities like originality, flexibility, ideational fluency, divergent thinking, self-confidence, persistence, sensitiveness, the ability to see relationship and make associations. Thank you for watching this program. Have a nice day.